Hi everybody, Joey here again and welcome back. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a fully integrated filtration system for your aquarium. I plan to show you how to do it with a couple of examples, then show it in action, then talk about some of the pros and cons to this method of filtration. Now if you're not familiar with what these are, they're actually a filter system built directly into your aquarium as part of it, typically using the inner back or side wall of your aquarium to accommodate this filter. Sort of like having a sump directly in your aquarium. For these examples, I'll be using a clear acrylic so we can see right through it so as to understand how it works. If you plan on building this, I advise using a colored plastic of your choice so it remains hidden. Whether you're building one of these for your back wall of your aquarium or the side wall is completely up to you. However, they are both built in the same manner. The only difference is size. You'll want to start out by dry fitting the main panel in first to ensure a proper fit. This should be cut to size of the inside dimensions of your aquarium, followed by partitions. Now, these are commonly called baffles. The width of this filter will depend entirely on what you want, but in these examples, I made it 3 inches wide, simply to accommodate the pump. 3 inches is more than enough for everything else, including fitting my arm in almost to the bottom. I also ensure the walls are at least a ½ inch shorter than the main tank. Just in case I flood this filter, the water will simply flow back into the main aquarium. With the wall and the baffles confirmed that they fit, I now mark off where these are for future reference, and then mark where the entrance will be, as well as the pump exit. I leave the protective plastic on to allow me to mark it without directly marking on the acrylic. Now I suggest making sure that you put all your equipment in first before making a final decision on how everything will go, just to make sure everything will fit. Now because there is no real pressure on the panel, I don't need a thick acrylic, so I'm using a cheap extruded acrylic that is 3 millimeters thick. The reason being is because the pressure on the outside and the pressure on the inside of this filter are the same. Now if you have a router, you can use that to make the slots in the acrylic for the overflow into the filter. However, most of you will have a drill. So what I like to do is use a small section of lighting diffuser to evenly mark off where I want the holes. And then I use a step drill to carefully drill the holes. How many and how large depends on the flow of your pump. However, adding in a few more holes afterwards or making them bigger can be easily done later if needed. If you press too hard, you're going to crack the acrylic. But it's not the end of the world. A bit of silicone or even acrylic cement can fix that. Again, only because there is no real pressure pushing up against it. For the baffles, I do the same thing, except I make them a lot larger because I won't be able to adjust them later on. All of how you do this is totally up to you. However, this is just one example on how to build these. Installing can be done in two ways. Either install the main wall first and slide the baffles in after, followed by lining it all with silicone to hold them in place. Or install the baffles first, followed by the main wall. Either way renders the same result. After waiting 24 hours, it's now ready for water. Before we move on, let's talk about how this works. Now, as water is pumped out from behind the wall, water will replace it by overflowing behind it again. It will first enter through the holes we drilled at the top, and at this point we would want to have some sort of mechanical filtration to filter the water. I chose to have the holes at the top so I can get some surface skimming as well, but the position of these and layout and everything is up to you. We just need to make sure we follow one simple rule, which is alternating the position of the openings of the baffles, meaning we want to make sure that water flows under one and then over the other, or vice versa, so that water actually has to flow through each chamber, and not just pass under it or over it. After flowing under the first baffle, the water has nowhere to go but up and through whatever biological media is in place to get to the top and overflow to the next side. At this point, the water will be met by your heater and pumped back into the main aquarium. To show you a couple of ideas, in the sidewall filter, I built a small table out of lighting diffuser and some zip ties to hold a bag of ceramic biological media. I did this so as not to block the entrance, as that will only promote channeling of the water and eventually bypass the media. This method ensures that the water evenly flows into that area and up through all of the media. For mechanical filtration prior to it, I could have done the same thing, but I had a sponge that fit in tightly enough so I didn't need it. For a back wall filter, we have much more room to play with. With a couple of more baffles, I could have added in as many more sections to perform different duties as I wanted. However, I decided to turn that entire section into a fluidized bed. Now the sidewall filter will be good enough for most people, however, obviously the back wall offers far more space and more options. Now the downside to this filter is it takes up space in your tank, and obviously that's not something we would typically want to do, however it still has a lot of benefits. I like them because it totally separates the fish from all of your equipment. Everything is completely hidden. It also allows me to have a lot of options a typical sump would have without having to have an overflow in my tank, extra plumbing, or an actual sump below. I can use it as a filter, or I can even incorporate something like a refugium. Depending on the design you pick, you also get a lot of surface skimming a typical overflow offers. Not to mention it's also more energy efficient. Now I'm only using an 8-watt pump to power this versus a 20 to 50-watt pump or more that I would typically need to power a typical sump. This filter also has no size limit. You can install it virtually on any tank for any purpose. If you're building your own tank, you can even plan the tank size and dimensions around this method of filtration, so as to accommodate it and you're not losing it on any space. Ultimately, this may be a new idea for many of you, but it's been around for many years now, and I simply wanted to give you my take on building them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe got some ideas from it. I also wanted to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for a new project.